Welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio, where truth equals reality, and truth is often stranger than fiction.
Hello everyone, welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man, and joining me today is going to be Kayla Ambrose, and I hope that I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I think I am. I'm going to correct me in a minute if I made a mistake. But she's the author of 2 or 3 books. She also has a recurring appearance, as I understand it, on John Edwards' radio show. I want to say is Infinity Quest, if I remember correctly. And she made Infinite Quest. I'm sorry. And she's been in the Huffington Post, and she has a school for awakening your inner chakras and your energy and, ascension and becoming all that you can be. She also does some ghost hunting and some other things. I understand that she reads auras, and, I found her very interesting, so I invited her to my show, and I thought I'd get her to share with me some of her wisdom teachings. And what I didn't tell her before the show is that I myself have studied a little bit about Hermeticism and alchemy and Gnosticism, so at least I can try to kind of keep up with her a little bit here. So, Kayla, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Royce. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Oh, I want to thank you for coming on my show. This is a topic I really like to try to help people get the word out about as much as possible because, I don't think you can really find peace in the world without, actually acting out some of this stuff in your actual life, without applying the principles, like the principles of Jesus and Buddha and some of the other teachers down through the ages. So, I feel like the more people can say it, you get a consensus going, you might do some good, in other words. You see what I'm saying?
I do. I agree. All wisdom and peace comes from within, and that's what the master teachers have been teaching for thousands of years. And that's what I try to do. I say I'm not a teacher. I just help people remember who they are at their core level. I believe that the knowledge, this ancient knowledge and wisdom, is timeless and universal, and it belongs to all of us. And deep inside, we all remember it, but sometimes we just need guides and little things to help us remember who we are and what abilities we really have and what creators we are as well.
Right. Now, before we go into all that, though, real quick, why don't you tell everybody what led you down your particular path?
Well, Royce, I was born this way, this lifetime. I believe in reincarnation, and I came back as a little girl really remembering a lot of past life adventures and lifetimes. And my parents would get calls from the library where I'd be there pulling out the books about ancient mythology and any books I could find on the paranormal, supernatural, or otherwise, and ancient history, and I would be rewriting the books and editing them and saying, that's not how it happened, this is how it was. And so they'd get calls saying, she's written on another book, you're going to have to buy this one too. So I ended up with a nice library when I was a little girl, just from books that way. And I was very fortunate that I had parents that were understanding of that and understanding of my intuitive abilities, and it's something that runs in our family. Every couple generations, one of us pops out with this big mass of red hair and seeing things and bothering people ever since. And so I remembered these things and remembered teaching before in the mystery schools that I was connected with. And so I kind of hit the ground running this lifetime, remembering it and ready to go again.
Well, that sounds like it was really quite a unique childhood. Did it pose any kind of difficulties for you in school?
I was raised Catholic in the beginning, and I remember when I first, I saw auras as a child as well as being intuitive, and we were asked to color pictures. And so I would color the picture, but not just the person, like their dress, but the colors around them. And the nuns would say, that's wrong, you're coloring outside the lines, you've made a mess of your picture. And I would try to explain to them, and so I started to realize early on that they weren't seeing what I could see. And I would talk, there was one Monsignor there, a priest, who was very nice and would answer my questions, because I would want to talk about Mary and about the divine feminine in my own little childlike way. And he was very understanding of it. And I said, it's not just about having a garden for her. She needs to be up there too. Why don't we have girl priests? And so I was very precocious, and I'm sure I drove them crazy there. And it was funny, just with all of those things, you learn as a child, I guess, who you can talk with things about and who you can't. So
yeah,
I learned how to handle that. And then we moved a lot, too, and I moved around a lot, lived in a lot of places in this country. And so you learn a lot about that and about people. And it was great because I was exposed to different cultures and different religions, and my parents let me study them all. I found them all fascinating. I wanted to understand every religion. And at the end of the day, I came away with an understanding that it's many paths. Everybody chooses a path religiously that feels right to them or that they're brought up on, but we're all seeking that same destination, which is to understand ourselves on a deeper level and to have a connection and some type of relationship with what we call the divine. And so I feel that it was, at the time, I wasn't always like, oh, goody, this is happening here, we're moving again, or this is new. But when I look back at it now, it was really a blessing and taught me so much.
Well, I can imagine it has. And, I was just thinking while I was hearing you talk about the different religions, because I've been to different religions and I've studied different religions online. And one of the things that I've talked to a Wiccan about one time was the fact that, interestingly enough, the church would not want to admit to this, but almost all religions share certain core values, whether they realize it or not. Core teaching or doctrines, in other words.
Absolutely. You look at that and you'll see so many similarities. It's astounding. I write about that in my first book, The 9 Life-Altering Lessons, Secrets of the Mystery Schools Unveiled, that we have what are called universal truths. And these are timeless and universal in that way. They're the wisdom. And every religion is surrounded by that. And then from there, we kind of take it and add dogma and man-made type things on it to whatever we think is right at the time with society and culture and where we're living and how we're living. And it kind of goes its own way from there. But if you take it down to the basic core truths, you'll see that in all of them. Even most of the master teachers, if you look at the story of their mothers, many of them were born to a mother that was described as a virgin in some way, and that her name was Mary. I think Buddha's mother was Mari. You can look at all the great religions and almost all the master teachers, their mother is named Mary or some form of Mary.
Now, another thing that I was going to mention that you could help, with this in here, I'm sure you're probably aware of this, is that the divine feminine, which is something that many of the churches don't like to refer to. It's actually no different than the Holy Spirit is what I've read online. It's the name that the actual people in the Bible that wrote it was using, but they had the divine principle of Sophia in mind when they did it. Or was I reading the wrong or bad material when I read that?
Well, that's the big question, is it? Which material is the right material? And you go back to 325 AD with the Council of Nicaea, and that's when, before then, you had hundreds of different sects of Christianity, and the Roman Emperor there, Constantine, wanted to bring them all together and form them into one book, and gathered all those different groups and decided which books would be formed into what we now understand as the Bible. And he liked some of the stories and didn't like other ones, and if he didn't like them, they had to vote them out and destroy, and he asked that all those stories and books be destroyed that were what many people had and held on to them. We wouldn't even know about that too much except for those stories, except for the Nag Hammadi Library and the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found, which have started to show some of those books that were kept out. But there's stories in there, including one historically that his wife at the time was very cruel, and she didn't like the idea of reincarnation and karma, that she might have to come back and pay for what she had done. So she asked him to have that book and that story removed and not included in what we now call the Bible. And then you take it from there, 325 AD, when that was all put together. You translate it through so many different languages and everything else. So you look at it today, and it's a little hard to discern, and even how different words mean things. The word virgin at the time meant nothing to do actually with sexuality. It just meant a young girl, and there's so many different translations of that. So, and in the temples, it meant a woman that was studying esoteric teachings. So we could go on and on there about what's right about that. But as far as the divine feminine, we live in a world of duality. We have summer and winter. We have light and dark. We have hot and cold. It's like saying you don't have a left hand, just paying attention to one hand. We have duality in everything. So if there's a divine masculine, there's a divine feminine, just how our world works, I think.
Wouldn't there also, and this is just my logic speaking here, need to be a divine androgynous to balance it out in the middle?
Well, some say that is the divine universal energy that what some will call the grand divine, some perhaps call God, is really that. It's a universal energy that's all things, and so neither positive or negative. But it's here on Earth where we have the duality, and there's many theories like that when we go back into soul form, that we're both and all and none, and all of those things, rather than how we define ourselves here as male or female.
Well, yeah, and the reason I really asked that, because when you were saying hot and cold, you know, the thought occurs to me that you have warm right in the middle. Night and day, you got dusk and dawn in the middle. You know, everything dual has a opposite pole, but a center, and the Buddha was the one that taught the center path, or the middle path, and this is the lines I was thinking along.
I like that very much, yeah, what you're saying, and I think that has to do with balance as well in all things. And I don't really want to be hot or cold, but being, you know, nicely warm sounds good, or nicely cool, depending on what it's like outside. So I think we're all seeking that within ourselves, that balance between the two. But the only constant in life is change, as they say, and so we always change. The seasons change, we grow and age and change, and that's just part of the human condition here, what we go through.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I just kind of tend to like to ignore the aging part.
Don't we all?
Well, listen, I want to make sure I tell everybody that your website's at www.exploreyourspirit.com, and I think you've got some other websites as well, don't you?
I do. That's kind of the main one, the jumping off point where you can get to anything. My show's on there. I have a radio show like yours, and we'll be 6 years old in February. And we have about 350 shows on there that are archived, with mainly metaphysical and paranormal type shows, interviews with authors and luminaries in this type of work. And it has other things on there, my books, my blog, Explore Your Spirit TV that we've come out with now, and leads to all the books in there, the Awakened Aura book, and Ghost Hunting North Carolina as well, and my other work. So exploreyourspirit.com will get you to any of those other places you want to go.
You know, I'm kind of like you. I've been doing my radio show for about 5 years over at Blog Talk Radio before I moved over to my own site, and I've got at least 250, 300 in my archives too. So I guess you probably, like me, you probably do about 2 shows a week.
Depending on my schedule, yeah. I travel a lot because I like to hit the road and teach, and especially in the summer, I call it my Gypsy Wagon Road Tour, and I pile up my van and go teach. And this past summer, it was up in the Northeast. I was all over New York, and went all over up there. And I think my final stop was Pittsburgh, and all through there. And then this fall, I was over in Charleston, and I actually just got back a couple days ago from New Orleans, and I was filming a documentary there and working on my next book coming out, which is Haunting New Orleans. It'll be coming out in 2012. So I was down there looking at ghosts and haunted history and delving into that. So I worked the show in around travel and teaching, and it's a labor of love and a lot of fun, as I know you well know.
Oh, yeah. I'd imagine, though, that you like being able to do your show on the Internet, because while you travel, you could take your show with you.
Yeah, the Internet is the most brilliant thing we've created. I think it's the whole age of Aquarius. We talk about that we've astrologically moved from the age of Pisces into Aquarius. And Aquarius is an air sign. And the symbol of Aquarius was the water bearer, that he was up in the heavens with the gods, and he was serving the gods, but he dipped the pitcher full of the inspirational water back down to earth to give enlightenment to humans. And so as we are in this age of Aquarius now that's coming, we're giving that enlightenment. And I really think the Internet is one of those ways where everything can travel in an instant, like it's through the air. It's so magnificent. And to me, it's really groundbreaking and evolutionary what we're able to do now with the Internet. There's no looking back. The way we're all connected, and time is almost an illusion at this point because things happen so instantly. And, you know, I'm old enough to remember no Internet and having no cell phones. So the way things move now is just so incredulous to the days. When I first started writing, I was a typewriter. Can't even imagine that now with, you know, whiteout over my mistakes. So
now you just delete.
Exactly. So it's moving so quickly. It's so amazing. Yeah, the internet is fantastic, and I love it. It's a great way to share the show and for people to reach it like they do your show. People, any country, any place, anywhere. If they're on the net, they can find your show and listen to it anytime they want with the archives, which is great.
Oh yeah, archives are just wonderful. I've fairly found out over the years that I get less people live and more people in the archives. I guess people just, well, they got their favorite TV shows or whatever they got going on. So what they like about these shows on the internet is they can listen to them at their leisure.
Well, we say on Explore Your Spirit, it's the shows you want, when and where you want to listen to them. And that's what the internet provides, is it's all about choice, and it's on your time. And I don't even watch TV live anymore. I have a DVR that records the shows I like, and I use TiVo, and TiVo gets to know what shows I like and finds more, and it goes out there and works for me. And I love that. So when I'm in the mood to watch TV, it's there, and I'm not bound by anything anymore. I don't have to listen to a radio station at a certain time. I don't have to watch TV at a certain time. It's all my time now, when and where I want. And that's the power of what technology is doing for us today, is giving us that freedom to create and to build and to enjoy things when we want to.
Yeah, and to do things on your terms, not a schedule's term, in other words, which I think is a wonderful thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just, the Learning Annex had just approached me this past fall, and I teach some courses on there, and they asked me to participate with a book they're doing, which was predictions for 2012 and beyond. And they picked what they call the world's top 100 psychics to do predictions. And so I agreed to write my predictions for them, and I talked really about business intuition and where we're going in the future with business. And we're going further and further into things being handled on the internet. I think education is the next big thing you'll see as well, where people will be able to study online, and there won't be
homeschooling to take on a whole new dimension.
Yes, it will, and you'll be able to study with teachers and professors from around the world instead of just in one particular school. And I think we're also going to see that in medicine, where you can go see a local doctor, but if you want a second opinion, I think in the future you'll be able to Skype in or whatever video process they use and meet with a doctor anywhere in the country, maybe one of the best physicians or specialists with whatever's bothering you. You'll be able to meet with him. He'll be able to have certain results and things sent over to him. They'll be able to monitor it, and you'll be able to have a video conference with a doctor, getting a second opinion with a specialist no matter where you live. And that's what another power of what's coming with the internet here, with business and medicine and education, I think.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of good things going down the pike, as long as we keep the bad folks off of their bad ideas anyway.
Well, that's been forever, hasn't it? We can look back in history and always see where no matter what it was, or whether it was the first wheel that was invented or fire or, onward, people will use it for good and some will use it for other purposes. And that's just part of what we have to deal with, but we can't let it, I don't think, stop us in our evolution.
That's definitely true. So I was going to also mention that the phone number for anybody that's listening, because like me and Kelly was saying a minute ago, not everybody necessarily listens right here at the site. I know some people might be listening on smartphones or, Shoutcast or iTunes or somewhere else. So just to remind everybody, the phone number here is 832-632-7904 if you want to call in and ask a question. And the address of my site here is www.paranormalpalace.com. Feel free to come over and sign up. The registration's free, and it lets you into the chat room. And the only purpose for registration is really to hopefully try to keep as many spam bots out as we can, so that people don't interfere with your conversation in the chat room. So y'all feel free to come catch the show live and join the chat and ask questions in chat as well as calling in. And Kayla, I wanted to also ask you about your book about awakened aura. So you were telling me on the phone earlier now, if I understood you correctly, that you don't have to actually be in person to read an aura, or did I misunderstand that?
No, I don't. You mentioned that I am part of John Edwards' program called Infinite Quest, and on there, I Skype in, and people that want to go to Infinite Quest and participate in the show there, they Skype in, and I'm looking at them over video, and I'm able to read their aura and their energy through video. So, but I've read auras for people on the phone as well. I can do both. I can see them in person, and I can also just tap into a person's energy field, no matter how far away they are, and sense their energy field and their aura and the energy bodies around it as well. So I do both.
Also, I was going to mention to you that in the chat room, James was just saying, incidentally, I saw on TV a few years ago that doctors can use the internet to do surgery, then move robotic arms over the internet. I'm not sure how that works, but I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either. You're going to see a lot more of it. Medicine's about to take a big leap with that. You're going to see where you'll be able to buy gadgets soon in your own home that you can do, where you can meet with the doctor through video, and the gadgets there will have like something you lay your hand on with a scanner, and it'll be able to take your pulse and your blood pressure and report all those things over the internet to your doctor no matter where he is. So soon you won't have to, when you're feeling sick, you won't have to go to a doctor's office and get sicker when you're sitting around with other people. You'll be able to do these things from home, and your doctor will be able to keep up with it. And you might make an appointment maybe for x-rays and things like that if you need, or to have blood drawn. But even that, I think you'll see, just like how diabetics have those little things for pricks of blood, you'll see that soon where it can prick it as well and analyze the blood on a little machine that eventually we'll be able to have in our homes.
Okay. My wife happens to be in the chat room, and she was asking if you're doing any readings tonight.
Oh, gosh. Well, I haven't
You and me
on
didn't
it,
discuss it, and I know we didn't plan, but she asked, so I just thought I'd ask.
Well, I can't do full readings in this time, but if someone has a direct question about something they want to know, I'll try to answer questions like that tonight.
Okay, well, give her a minute to see if she types anything in there as far as a direct question goes. And while we're at it, waiting for that, why don't you tell me a little something about the book Awakened, or, I mean, is there a certain thing you do to be able to read an aura, or is this about actually making your aura what you want it to be, or what exactly does this book help us with?
Well, Royce, I'm so excited about this book, and it's with Llewellyn Publishing, and I was so happy that they agreed to publish this book because I so respect them. They're such a wonderful publisher in this industry. And I went to them and said, okay, there's lots of books out about auras and colors and things like that. But what I explained to them is that I've been seeing auras since I was little, but in the past 10 years, I've watched people's auras change. And I mean dramatically change. I'm watching new patterns and structures form in the aura and changing around our bodies. And I really believe that we are in the midst of an evolution. And so the subtitle of the book, The Awakened Aura, is Experiencing the Evolution of Your Energy Body. And people have talked about, we're going to move out of this third dimension. We're going to move to the fourth and fifth dimension. And I was like, how can we do this? How could our physical bodies do this? But now I'm seeing these crystal-like structures being built around us made of light that I believe are really going to help our bodies shift and make that consciousness shift into the higher dimensions as well and help the physical body through it. And it's been so interesting. There's like cords that come from different parts of people's bodies, and I see it in the auric fields and how they connect. And then as I've studied this my whole life and watched the aura and been able to understand, I wanted to write a book about all of that, how your aura works, explain it, like how colors and foods and crystals and natural elements can help your aura, and also how you have different layers of the aura with the different fields. Like there's an emotional field and a mental field and spiritual fields and the physical field. And so what each one of these do and how they process it. And then I wanted to teach people how to see auras themselves, and not just see them in others, but in plants and trees, and how to detect the aura in buildings and energy that it holds. And we stress our aura fields out a lot. We can deplete them as well and damage them. So I really wanted to teach that, the ancient ways of how to repair and cleanse and energize your aura. And beyond that, how you can strengthen it and project it. You can make an auric field a powerful white light shield around your body that protects you from many things. Like if you work at a really negative place or you just need protection somewhere, you can create what's called psychic self-defense that you can put around your auric field. And then when you practice and get strong enough, you can put it around your car, your home, your family, and protect others. And we have so many gifts like this that are our divine right, and they've always been there for us, but no one's been teaching us these things. They used to be taught a long time ago, and, we haven't been taught this in a long time, and that's what I'm trying to bring back, is to share that and show this is your birthright. This is an ability you have. There's nothing woo-woo about it. It's just part of who we are, and these auric fields are there to help us, and it's how we get information from the planes above. It's how it comes through. And many doctors now are saying that this is the future of energy medicine, is to understand this body-mind-spirit connection, how things move in through these fields before they come into the physical body. And I try to explain that as well, how you can have better health from it and connect. And it just goes on. I just kept going and going and going. I explained the evolution. I explained how to tap into the other side, how to see the guides in your auras, how to understand and see the aura in your children. If they're not communicating, you can still see what's going on with them, from babies when they're crying to teenagers that may not want to talk at the time, but you can see in their aura how they're really feeling. And basically a whole level of communication and evolution. And I tried to pour it all into one book as best I could.
Well, from listening to you, I'd say you poured quite a bit in there, and quite a bit of it more. I mean, it sounded like some really important information. Now, my wife, though, was saying, forget about what she was saying on the aura, because what she had in mind was past lives, but she changed her mind, and she wants to know what is her aura and what does it mean?
Does she mean like what is an aura in general, or she's wanting to know colors of her aura?
I believe she meant that in general.
Okay, well, in general, the aura is the energetic field around your body. So we have an essence where we are a soul, and there's a soul that's inside the physical body. And then what's called the spirit is that spark, that energy that gives us life. From the moment we're born and we take that first breath and we begin to have life on our own, there's a spirit, there's a connectedness there. And that energy glows around us. And in ancient times, artists used to paint this. They would paint halos around enlightened beings, showing their aura, that it was golden and enlightened. And they've tried to show that eminence, that light energy that emits from us. So we have different layers of the aura, and the first layer is called the etheric layer, and that's the spirit. It's our battery. It's the spark that makes us alive. And when we die, that spark closes, and there's no more life in the body. There's no light in the eyes. There's no animation. That's what the etheric body does in the aura. And then the next level you have is the mental field, and you've got the mental aura, which holds where a lot of your thoughts and your beliefs and things come from, things that you're told from childhood, things that you study, and those type of things. And then you have the emotional field that's around you, which holds all your emotional energy and feelings. And then you go into the spiritual levels of the aura, which extend far beyond and go much greater. But for most purposes, we talk about the first 7 fields of that as being the ones closest around us and that affect us the most. So when you understand from the ancient teachings, there used to be a Hermetic axiom called as above, so below.
Right.
And that meant that part of our soul was up in the higher planes, and it comes down almost in the shape of like an inverted pyramid until the tip of our soul actually rests in our heart chakra area. So when we reach out and reach up above, we're reaching to that higher self, to the soul, to the energy up there, and pulling down that knowledge, all that knowledge that we have in wisdom, pulling it down through the spiritual planes. So it comes first through the fields surrounding our aura, the spiritual fields, the emotional field, the mental field, finally down into the physical body and into the heart, and then sent on to the brain where we understand it and put it in perspective. So like in cartoons, whenever you see a cartoon where someone's getting a bright idea and they're getting inspiration, you see it doesn't come from within inside. It's a light bulb outside of them. And that's another way to depict it. That's that energy. We get all of our information like that through our aura and our energy fields and the planes around us. It comes from above and then comes down into us below. And so that's what our aura does. And it also then stores energy. So whatever we think about or feel, it stays in those auric bodies around us. And so the colors reflect that. Our energy, how strong our energy is, what we harmonize with most. if, someone says there's a dark cloud around you, it's almost like they're seeing your aura. They're seeing that negative energy building up in a dark cloud. Or they might say you have a sunny disposition, and they're seeing the glow around you. We describe it in so many ways. A person will say, I'm feeling blue, or I'm green with envy, or, there's so many descriptions like that, and that's because the aura reflects that and colors the vibrations of what we're thinking and feeling, and what we think about ourselves and others. And when everyone can learn to see the aura, we won't be able to lie to each other anymore because we'll see it in the aura.
Maybe I believe things like it is. I'm kind of fond of my life. No, I'm just kidding.
But in a nutshell, that's kind of what the aura does. And so there's a lot of belief in the medical industry now that if we can see what we're manifesting in these outward planes, that we could see what's happening, whether there's something like dis-ease, if we were to make it 2 words, like dis-ease, like uncomfortableness, if we're uneasy about something, that it can form first in the energy bodies and in the aura. And if we can catch it there and change those thoughts and feelings about it and replace it with powerful, strong, positive white light energy, we may be able to stop some of these things before they manifest in the physical body, causing us physical disease. And so there's a lot of interest in the medical community as well about working with the aura. And probably the most famous person who ever talked about auras was Edgar Cayce, and he did a lot of work with auras. And the most famous story with him was he saw auras everywhere with people. And one day he was up in a high-rise in a meeting, and the elevator opened, and he went to get on, but everyone standing in the elevator, he couldn't see their auras. And it shocked him so much that he couldn't see anyone's aura that he stepped back, just trying to figure it out, and the door shut. And the elevator cord broke, and everyone in the elevator died. And he realized at that point that when we're preparing to die, our auras actually start to close down and go within because they're taking that energy back up into the higher planes. And he understood after that time what that meant when he would see the aura not as strong around the person or close in, that person was preparing to transition on to the other side, which I found fascinating.
Sounds like it. Sounds really fascinating and in depth. I was going to mention that while you were covering that, a call came in, and well, I went ahead and picked it up because after so many rings, the answering service gets it, and I didn't want to miss it, so I hope you don't mind. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to share with your guest an interesting experience that happened to me. When I was in college, me and this girl that sit next to one another, we were looking at each other's eyes, and we both fell in love at the same moment. And I looked down at my arm and at my chest, and all I saw was like a gold aura surrounding my body. And I looked over at her, and she had the same gold aura. I thought that was pretty interesting. That was one of the first times I've ever seen auras. Actually, in fact, I only saw one other aura besides that, and I thought that was pretty interesting. If I hadn't known what I was looking at, maybe I might have gotten scared or something, or thought kind of weird. It was kind of weird. But I automatically knew what it was because I was doing studies in witchcraft and psychic ability and stuff at the time. So anyway, what can you tell me about the gold aura color? What does it mean exactly? Anyway, I'll get off the air now so somebody else can call if they want to. So bye.
Okay, thanks a lot. That sounded like one of my regular listeners, James. He sometimes calls in. I think he meant for you to go ahead and just answer it live on the air, in other words.
Sure, my pleasure. And James, if that's you, thanks for calling. I appreciate your interest. Gold is one of the most beautiful colors in the aura, and it shows the higher energies. My grandfather, who saw auras, and when he passed, he told us that when he came back to look for him in a gold light, that's where he would be. It's the highest level of love, and it's what the masters are often shown in with the gold. And when you're experiencing a moment of just pure bliss or pure love, it's very common to see the gold like that. I'm not surprised to hear that it was a moment where you both were falling in love when that happened. There's so many teachings about that. When I lived in Hawaii, the teachings there are called the Huna teachings, and they talk about the moment when you fall in love and the cord that extends. And there's a cord that extends from one heart chakra to another, and those become what we describe as the ties that bind. And when something comes so purely and freely from the heart chakras, like when you're falling in love, the colors are so brilliant like that and so beautiful because they are just so pure. And those chords are what I was describing about in my new book that I see expanding. They're growing. They've always been there. That's why when we have relationships, those chords get so strong. And when you're together with someone for a long time, whether you're married to them in a love, relationship, whichever, those chords get stronger and stronger the more energy that goes back and forth. That's why even if we decide to end a relationship like a divorce, it takes its time and it's hard because those chords have been there for a long time and we feel connected. And it's why when we're happily together for a long time, we can finish each other's sentences or know what the other person's thinking without them having to say. And those chords, we become more like one, connected to each other. So this is growing and expanding even deeper on the heart chakra, and that's what I'm seeing evolve. And expanding out to others as well. It's like our heart chakras are opening like this plant, and these little tendrils of cords are coming out and just connecting with everyone in a very loving way. And we've understood this in the past. They used to tell mothers, it's time to cut the cord, meaning the umbilical cord with the child when it was time for them to leave the nest. And that was an old wise woman way of saying that, understanding energetically those cords and having to loosen up on them. And so it's amazing how we connect like that. And that's why when we're with someone, and especially when we're intimate with someone, we create cords there that attach as well and stay for a long time. And that's what the old wise women used to try to explain about the sacredness of lovemaking. It's that to understand that you are connecting there in so many deep ways with cords connecting and forming a bond in that way. And so to make sure that when you share that energy, that it is such a precious gift. And it wasn't, they weren't the ones talking about that you had to be married. They weren't Victorian in that way. They were fine even back in the old Celtic days of just being together because you loved each other and were fond for each other. But they did want people to understand those cords that bind and how they connect and stay that way. And I wish you hadn't gotten off the phone. I'd love to hear if you were still with the person that you connected with in that way with the gold energy and how it's grown for you both. So if you have time, call back and let us know.
Well, if somebody's calling in, that might be him now. Caller, you're on the air.
Do what?
You're on the air.
Air of what?
You're on Paranormal Palace Radio.
I must dial a wrong number. What radio is this?
Paranormal Palace. It's a paranormal internet radio show. Maybe you accidentally got this number from somewhere else.
Okay, I was calling Nexion Health Services.
No, that's not here. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do I win anything?
No, I wish so.
Okay.
All righty. Thanks anyway. Bye-bye. Okay, I do apologize for that.
Maybe his higher self was reaching out, trying to learn about the aura and health, and he didn't even know at the time.
Hey, you never can tell about something like that. I've seen Stranger. But
synchronicity. That's
what they say. Actually, I've seen it. But moving on, I was going to say, let's talk about the 9 life-altering lessons, and what can you tell us about that book?
That was my first book that I wrote, and my students really prompted me to teach it. I've had a mystery school for years, teaching like the ancient wisdom temples of Egypt and Greece, like they taught, and that's my main love, is to be a wisdom teacher and to share these ancient lessons. And so my students that I taught, when you teach those, they study with me for years and they go through everything. And they said, there's so many other people that want to know this. Please write a book and share it with them so that if they're not here, they can understand. So I wrote the first 9 lessons that every student that goes to a mystery school, whether it was back in ancient Egypt or Greece in the temples, what they studied. And the lessons begin with a reminder to help you answer some really deep questions, which are, who am I and why am I here? And these sacred questions were asked since time immemorial, I think, for people to understand them and to delve into that. And when you ask yourself those 2 questions, it puts you on a quest, on a journey to figure out what's important to you, and are you a spiritual being having a human experience, and if so, where do you go from there? So with these lessons, they were taught in the masses in parables, and then they were taught esoterically to those that were willing to be in the temples and look deeper. And the lessons were meant first to be introduced to the mind, where you think about those questions, and then you take them into the heart and you feel them and you start to experience them. How are you connected to the world and to others, and what's the point of being here? And then the third part is it becomes a permanent part of your soul. It carries forth, and as you grow in that sense, you carry this on from one lifetime to another. And so more than lessons that you study or memorize, they're lessons that you explore and find out more about who you are. And the best example the mystery schools use is like the butterfly, that you're the caterpillar first, and you think that's what life's about, and then you go in this cocoon, and you're not sure what's going to happen. It's a little scary. And then at the end of it, it's this beautiful change into a butterfly, into a beautiful, colorful life that you didn't even know existed at the time. And that's what the lessons are about. They're helping the soul remember and reawaken to who they are on that level. And it's my joy to teach them. It's my favorite thing.
Well, it sounds like a very worthwhile book to have. They both do, actually. It sounds like they're very informative, and I myself, I love to be informed. Got one of those inquiring minds that want to know. I was going to mention, though, that James said that him and that other person never got together again after that in the chat room.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say then they definitely had a past life connection, because love that connects like that on that level usually doesn't just come from a chance encounter. So whether they stayed together for any amount of time or just connected at that one moment with that, there is something there deep within them. And many people have experiences like that, where you meet someone and you feel that deep connection, but for one reason or another, you go your separate ways and you don't stay together. But if he's got that strong of a connection with that person that he did, he could probably send out a signal and think about that person strong enough, and if he did, they would probably recognize that soul call and try to find him and contact him, even if it's been years ago.
Okay. And last but never the least, we got this last book I was going to get you to share with them about ghost hunting in North Carolina. Is this a book about all the favorite haunted hot spots in North Carolina?
It is. A publisher asked me if I would write the book, and they do a book about each of the 50 states. So there's one, eventually there'll be a book about all states. And it's called America's Haunted Road Trip. And they have certain requirements for the book. One is that it has to be publicly accessible. So when you read the book, it's a place you can go ghost hunt and explore. And so it's not the same as other books where it's like maybe a haunted house or something that someone is private residence. These are actually publicly accessible haunted sites with maps and travel information, so you can go there and explore for yourself. So I decided to do it because it's a little different than the other things I'm teaching, which are more metaphysical, and this is definitely more paranormal. But to me, energy is energy. And whether we are studying energy as how it affects us in our aura, or what happens on the spiritual realms, or what happens when we die, it's all the same thing. We're back to that light and dark and that duality like we were talking about earlier. So I said, yes, I want to write this. I want to talk about it, but I want to write it differently than any of the other books. And they said, okay, so tell us what you mean. And I said, well, I see ghosts. I've seen them since I was little. I'm psychic. I can communicate with them. So I'm going to go explore all these places and see for myself if they're haunted, and see if the ghosts want to talk to me and tell me their stories. And so that's what I did. I traveled the state of North Carolina. I went looking for Blackbeard the pirate over on the Outer Banks. I went through all the haunted plantations and Civil War battle sites. I went into the mountains of North Carolina and explored the haunted hotels there and the mysterious Brown Mountain Lights that no one can figure out what's going on over there. I went to the Devil's Tramping Ground here, all the places like that are in North Carolina that are haunted. And I wrote about my experiences, what I met, if I saw it was haunted. I took photographs in every place and shared it. And it was very fascinating. And whether or not you live in North Carolina or have been here, it's just fun to read because there's so much history that started here in North Carolina. The first colony ever started in America by English settlers was here with Virginia Dare, who in the Croatan group and the Roanoke Colony, and where all those settlers went missing and were never found again. And there's still the mysteries behind that, what happened to them. And like I said, Black Bear the Pirate had so much to do here, and a lot of amazing history. So I like to say I'm the unofficial haunted history ambassador for North Carolina.
Oh, wow. Sounds like a pretty scary place. So you got as many haunted there as we have here, huh?
There's quite a few, and I definitely hit the road and went looking for them and investigated across the entire state. And it is very haunted, as you know, as a lot of states are. A lot of states have a great haunted history, but there were a lot of things that happened here. The Civil War, of course, and the other things I described, and even the battleship here, the USS North Carolina, is commissioned and is here now after it was decommissioned, and is a very haunted ship as well. So whether you want to go on the ship, on the seas, on the mountains, or somewhere in between, I tried to cover it all.
Okay. My wife was wanting me to ask if me and her have been together in a past life, and I don't know if you could do that to an aura reading or not, but I told her I'd ask.
Yes, you have, many times. And you deserve each other, every bit of it.
I don't know how to take that.
Your wife will understand.
Okay, now, also, James wanted me to tell you that he saw a shadow person once.
Okay. Yeah, there's, there are many things. And like I said, I've seen ghosts since I was little. And at first I saw spiritual beings. And being raised Catholic, I thought they were my guardian angels. You're taught that. Oh, you have guardian angel. So I said, oh, great, here's my angel looking out for me. This is wonderful. But after a time, I started to see other things. I saw ghosts, and then I saw some beings that, weren't bright and shiny, let's say. Shadow might be one description for them, and some other descriptions as well. So there are all types of things running around in the spirit world. And just like, we were saying, there's duality in all. So there's a lot of different entities running around this world, more than sometimes that we pay attention to.
Okay. Well, I was noticing that we've been on here almost an hour so far, and I've been enjoying this immensely. However, I do need to get up early and get my son John off to school. Last one's still at school. The other two are grown. And I got about one, maybe 2 more years with him, and I'm home free for that one. I can sleep as late as I want. But in the meantime, I was going to say, is there anything that you would like to mention that I haven't thought to ask you about or cover?
Just that I know things are so tough right now, economically, politically. Every day we wake up and it seems like something else is just imploding around us in the world. But I can tell you, with what I've seen of the future, what I've seen psychically, and what I continue to be told from guides of my own, is that we were all specifically chosen to be here in this lifetime for a reason. And there were many on the other side who wished that they were here. We're actually in one of the biggest evolutions and one of the greatest transformations to come here on the earth plane. And when we get through this, it's going to be truly what they call a golden age. So please just remember that. Remember to find something to be joyful about every day, to live in love and be grateful for the things that you do have, the intangible things especially, love and friendship, and just enjoy anything that you can. Find the joy in it, the sunrise, the beautiful flowers on your drive to work, whatever it is. Keep that in your heart and remain strong, because we're going through these tough times because we're about to have a rebirth and have something really special here. And we're in the darkest part right now. I really think we have about 4 more years of just really tough times, so about through 2016. And then things are really, really going to be wonderful. And it's going to get better. So just keep the faith, hold on to that energy, because what we think, we send out energetically, and there is a global consciousness. So don't buy into all the fears and don't spread that further. Let's do the opposite and spread positive energy and love and good energy and hope and for the things to come. And as well, take action. It is a time of action. If there is something you're passionate about, it is time to speak up and stand up about it and to make that change. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So it is a time to do that as well. But don't let it drag you down. Don't let the turkeys get you down. I remember someone in my family used to say that. The world, we hear more because it is global, like you said, on the internet. So we hear all the news, good, bad, and ugly. We didn't hear it as much before, so it felt simpler. But at the end of the day, it's still what the world always is. There's good and bad and everything in between. So be the force of good.
I would agree. Always be the force of good. I'm all for that. Okay.
Thanks so much, Royce. I really appreciate the time being on your show tonight, and to everyone out there listening, and for those of you to come in the future to listen on the archives here. Time has no boundaries, so whether you're listening to us today or a year from today, just sending you loving, warm energy and appreciating you all. And
don't forget, folks, you can get to her website and let me come to that again. I had it right underneath her picture here, www.exploreyourspirit.com. And from there, she has links to everything else, including her books and CDs. And you can also get them at Amazon, which is where I found Kayla at to begin with. And I'm glad I did. And in addition to this, if you look right underneath the show description, you'll see that I've got one of those little Amazon slideshows with all her books and CDs in it. And I'm going to be moving that tomorrow to the archives to make room for the next show that's coming up live. But it will be in the archive along with this show, her description, everything you need to know, the link to her site and all, so that y'all can find it very easily. Kayla, I really enjoyed having you here, and I'd love to have you come back again in the future if you'd like to.
My pleasure, Royce, anytime. And all the best to you and your wife and your beautiful family, and happy holidays. And to close, just to tell you and your wife that the image I keep seeing the strongest about you two were Vikings, that you were a Viking husband and wife in the past. So.
Well, that would explain my warrior nature when I was younger.
There you go.
When I was younger, I'm older now. But, all right, thanks. I appreciate that. I really do. And let me see where I'm at right here real quick. It's like 9 minutes till, so I guess we can go ahead and pull a wrap on this one here. But it's really been very interesting. I've really enjoyed having you here. And thank you very much, and we'll see you again later. I have your email, and if you don't mind, I'd like to stay in touch.
Of course, yes, absolutely.
All righty, well, you have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Good night.
Good night. Okay, everybody. Let me find my place here real quick like. I wanted to tell y'all to remember to come back again this coming Saturday, I believe it is. Let me look at, December the 10th. And I'm supposed to have a man named Mike Matter. He claims that he believes he has actually met the devil, or it was an apparition. He doesn't know which, and he's going to tell us about it. I've been in contact with him. We were supposed to test his Skype, and well, he forgot that day, and we haven't got back together since, so I'm going to be working on hooking up with him, and I hope to see y'all then. And don't forget to visit my good friends at United Paranormal International. There's a logo with a link to them on the left-hand side of my webpage if y'all are interested in checking them out. And don't forget to spread my link around, and, don't forget that I'm going to have archives over at YouTube and at Daily Motion, as well as Meet a Cafe. And I'm going to go ahead and call it quits and go with my family now. Want to thank you for visiting the show. I couldn't have a show without you. And y'all be good and enjoy what's left of the week. Thank you, and bye-bye.